Hello, welcome to Beau Hannam Guitars and Ukuleles. Today I thought I'd talk about and show you how I'd make a mold with a packer piece for laminated sides. So you just make a normal mold, and this is the packer piece, which will just enable me to use this actual mold to laminate my sides instead of making a separate one which is extra deep. This just gives me enough depth to do that. I think the butt end with the packer is about 4¼ inches or 4½, something like that, which is just enough because the end is going to be just under that, so that's fine. I'll just use one. So from here I'm going to do it this side. Just line up these ends. And this is on the top, so mark each of the sides of the mold, back and top, to correspond with the back and top of the instrument. So the packer piece is flush with the rest of it, and there's just a very small amount of overhang. Now just put drill screw holes every 1.5 to 2 inches. Next, count. And it doesn't have to be neat. This packer piece just has to be functional. And really, molds and jigs, they don't have to be beautiful. They just need to do their job. Now, screw in. Screw this down. So when I'm laminating my sides, this packer piece will be in place, and as soon as I've put the head and tail block in, then I'll be able to take it off. And I'd much rather just have a packer piece living on the shelf than a full depth side mold, for every model that I do. It really saves on space, money for the plywood. For a guitar mold, it's about, it's a better part of a full sheet of plywood, which is $50. Plus the screws, which are nothing, but the time it takes to make a full mold is a lot more than just adding a packer piece. So that's my temporary packer piece. And there's one more step to do. So you can see the packer pieces was cut just a little bit too big. So now I'm going to trim this off with a router, but the trick to do this is the easiest way to do this, I've found, is to just join the other side of the mold, just bolt it together. And then we're going to route off the excess. You can use just any method to remove the wood, but a router with a pattern bit is easiest. And I also use or follow it up with just a quick trip to the spindle molder, or spindle sander rather. And that does the trick nicely. So I'm just hanging this off the table. And it is going to get loud, so bear with me. So I just quickly repurposed my slotted headstock. Router with one of those bits. I think they call it a pattern bit. I might have that wrong. Eye protection and ear protection. So I'll take off my microphone for this, just to make it a bit more bearable. So just make sure all these screws are underneath the surface, or the top surface, which all these are because they've been countersunk. That was the only reason why I countersunk them. That router is cheap, and so I just turned it back on because I just noticed a bit of wobble in its rotation. If you don't have a spindle sander, and I suggest you get one because they're really good and cheap, you can scrape the excess. So with the routing done, there's still a tiny lip here, and you can just scrape that back. It's just a tiny amount, so it's quite easy. Really the easiest way is to use a spindle sander, which I'm going to do, and then you have a really nice full depth mold for laminating your sides. And I'll show you my other pack of pieces. So this is my box of packing bits. I've got 6 tenor uke templates, or molds I mean. So I've got 6 of these for my tenor uke, and I just leave the screws in, and I just leave them a tiny bit proud or not proud at all, and that saves on a lot of space. Otherwise I'd need a lot more actual molds, which just wouldn't be helpful for me. So I hope that is of interest to you. So once I glue on this is just a cork block, but once I bend the sides, glue the head block and tail block on, then I usually take the packer off. But the packer is actually good for keeping on when you're driving the bus, when you're sanding the sides or the radius on the top and back, and I usually keep it on for that. Just the extra depth helps with least or minimum amount of side popping out, which is beneficial, just because when you're driving the bus and I'm sure you know what I mean. When you're driving the bus, you might, there's a lot of torque or tension being put on the little sides, so it's best to have as little as possible to extending out. The other trick, which I will show you, so that's the top of the instrument, i.e. this, and underneath here I wrote top on there. For the back, I just bandsaw the profile just roughly into the back, which would be this surface, just to follow the contour of the back, 15 foot radius back, and also the taper of the back, so fat to thinner, and that helps with gluing the back and top on, and also helps with that minimum projection of the sides out of the mold when you're driving the bus. Just helps with, if you've got if you consider that, if it was like 2 inches tall, that is pretty weak. So the minimum amount sticking out, protruding out here when you're driving the bus, better, or safer. It's not better, it's just safer, and safe is good. Hence why I'm still wearing my goggles. I think that's all the tips I can give. There was one more. So when I was bandsawing my mold, the saw, the blade kind of buckled a bit, so I'm not sure what the correct term is, but it bent like this just under the, because I was trying to cut 4 inches, so there was a bit of a scoop out here, so I just filled that with plastic wood, and that's fine. It was only like a mil or something, and when I put a straight edge on it, it wasn't, there was just a gap in the middle, but yeah, that's fine. And that's it. I'll write back on here, then I'll taper this down on the bandsaw, and then the new mold will be complete. Hope that was of assistance to you all. Oh, when I'm laminating the sides, or when I'm gluing the sides, I use these cawls, which are just strips of plywood covered with some cork, and these are for uke, so I'll have to make some, I've got some deeper ones for guitars, but they just get clamped here. Usually one clamp is fine. Sometimes you need 2, especially down here where it's considerably wider or deeper. I hope that was of help, and that's definitely all I've got to say on this. Yeah, if you like luthier tips and other bits and pieces, just subscribe to my channel, and if you hit that little bell thing on the right hand side, you get an email notification when I upload other stuff. And if you've got anything you want to learn about, let me know. Thank you. Bye. Okay, I thought of another tip to give. So this is a set of laminated sides which has been blocked up, and so if this was a new mold, I would have driven the bus with the back projecting out. So you project the back out as far as it goes, or as far as it needs to go. Like that. And then you drive the bus until the radius of the back, which is usually 15 foot, has been sanded into the sides. And then you can cut the mold to that radius. And how you do that, so this is a set of sides which have been radiused, and the usual taper that you use. So clearly marked top, clearly marked, well, this isn't clearly marked back, but it's the back. So might have to. So just pretend that this mold has just been made and it's in that configuration, just full depth all the way over. After you radius the sides to the back, if you drop this down, actually I'll just spin this round so it's more obvious. So I'm putting the back into the top just to make this, just to illustrate what I'm talking about. So pretend this is a new mold, and if I get the shadowing right, you can see how if you get the butt end flush, you can see how much I'd have to bandsaw off. And so if you just pretend this again, this is a new mold, you just come in, pencil, do that. And now you've got a pencil line which is the perfect radius of the back. So you can just bandsaw off this. And that's what I did with this. So it's really nice. And that's just, so you only have to do this obviously the one time for a new mold, but I just forgot in the last videos to share that tip. You just have to, hold out bandsawing the new mold down until you've radiused the sides, and then you can use that profile to really accurately bandsaw this down. And that will be the last part of this video. What also happens is, just when you're taking the the body in and out of the mold during the as you build it, doing this makes it really obvious which is the back and which is the top, because a perfect mold is perfect in every dimension, but these are handmade, and each side is just a tiny bit different, like I can't feel any differences here, but I just like to put the top back facing the top of the mold, and it goes in a little bit easier. You know, maybe the sides or the walls of the mold are just like, you know, 1/4 of a degree off or something. I don't know. It doesn't matter in regard to the quality of the build, as long as it's not extreme. But if you put a right angle on it, that'd measure as a good right angle. But I've just found over the years that you, as you're building, put the body back into the mold as it's built, and if you've got numerous molds, this is my tenor mold number 2. I've got 6 molds for tenor uke. So I write, I don't think I've done it here, number 2, just so that body goes back in the number 2 mold. Again, if you've seeing your molds, then they should all be absolutely perfect, but mine are all just minutely different. I could put this in any of my 6 molds and it would fit, but I like to put, for instance, number 2 back into the number 2 mold. So yeah, that tip that I showed you, where you radius the sides first and then use that radius to mark where you're going to bandsaw the mold down. That's a really handy tip, and I hope that eases the pain of making a mold. Thank you very much. Bye.